Hi, I'm Alex and welcome back to the Boathouse Paddle series where we talk about everything concerning paddle. Today's question's bank transfers. Now, probably most of your subscriptions run via credit card payments. They're automatic every month, every year, but now and again you might get a customer asking if they can do a bank transfer or wire transfer instead. Reasons could be maybe they're hitting their credit card limit and need a different payment method, or they may trust bank or wire transfers more. This is a common thing in Europe, for example. Or you've just got a contract value that is so high that it makes more sense to do a wire bank transfer. Doesn't matter what the reason is, it's very simple with Paddle. So let's have a look. How can we switch someone from a credit card payment over to a invoice or a manual billing? Head over into the customer record in Paddle and open the subscription. And then in Edit Subscription, you have at the bottom two options. The automatic using a stored payment method is the default if they were using a Paddle checkout on your website, for example. Switching this over to manual activates invoice billing, but keep in mind, and a warning will be displayed to show this, this is a one-way operation, so you can't next month then switch back to an automatic or to a stored payment method. If you do, you will have to ask your customer to go through the checkout process by adding their credit card again. So it's not fully permanent, but it is something you can change back once it's changed to this. What are the options for manual or invoice billing? You can add purchase order, notes, and so on, of course, but the interesting ones are you can still add a payment link. So there will be a Pay Now button on the invoice if this checkbox is activated that will let the customer or the client pay this invoice with a credit card, but not future invoices. This is not stored as a payment method at the moment for future invoices. Maybe Paddle will change this in future, but for now you're just paying for this one invoice with the credit card. Anyway, if you have this checkbox activated or not, the bank transfer information, so the account information, will be present on the invoice all the time, even with the payment link activated, so they can transfer it that way. The second option that is interesting is the payment due date. So you'll have a couple of days here. Usually 7 to 14 is normal because a wire or bank transfer may take a couple of days to complete. This is just on the invoice and lets the customer know until when they can pay this invoice. This is the invoice customization. There are a couple of things you need to change for the customer if you haven't already. If you don't have address or billing information, you need to head back up to the top and add that information in the customer record. So in this case, I'm just going to add Main Street, and let's say they live in Vienna in the 3rd district. Once you've saved that, you can now go ahead and click Continue. You will confirm the changes, which will switch it to invoice billing. And once you hit Save, nothing much changes in the customer record right at this point, except for that the payment method now displays invoice. But the next time the subscription is up for renewal, you will see a record here saying that there is an unpaid invoice. And the subscription will stay active until the payment due date has expired. This is something that is in the Paddle developer docs very explicitly. If the subscription term has expired, so it's up for renewal, then the customer has 14 days to pay. During these 14 days, the subscription will stay active. So if you've configured your SaaS that way, you will be providing services that are technically unpaid at this point by the customer. This is just something to note if your services cost you money and the payment might not happen. Maybe the customer or client is delinquent and will not pay. Just something to note, there is a period of days where the subscription is technically active, but the payment hasn't been made yet. This doesn't happen for credit cards because the payment is immediate. But if these 14 days or whatever you set expire, then the invoice becomes past due, the status is set to past due, and the associated subscription will be set to past due, and then usually, if you've configured the SaaS correctly, your services will stop for this client and this customer as well. So maybe you want to know, what does an invoice look like? Can, for a customer, create a one-off charge. So let's say they're expanding their team, they need additional licenses, or you're providing additional consulting services like support service on top of the SaaS subscription, then you can create a one-time charge. I'm going to use this feature just to show you what an invoice looks like. Just select one of the existing products and prices. And on the left here, we can see the last payment box where it says unpaid invoice. This will look the same when a subscription comes up for renewal. It will say last payment. Strictly speaking, what it means is the last payment that is due. It will say unpaid invoice. And if you'd like, you can click into the invoice and also view the actual PDF invoice that is sent to that customer. The difference is, of course, while it's sent, it will say unpaid. Once the payment has been completed or received by the bank, then this will turn into paid and the customer will get an invoice with a paid note at the top. In the unpaid state, you have the options that you've selected. So if you've selected the payment button or the payment link, they will have the Pay Now button. This will lead to your website, specifically whatever you have defined as your default payment link in your checkout settings. Check other videos on this channel on how to set up your Paddle account. That's one of the most important steps in the beginning, otherwise your Paddle integration will fail. But clicking this will take them to the website and there they can pay the invoice, the transaction in Paddle terms, with a credit card. It looks exactly the same as if they were creating a subscription, just that it displays this is a one-time charge for this invoice. And then, of course, you have the wire and bank transfer options beneath here, which is what we're talking about in this video. This is a Paddle account, obviously. Once Paddle receives the money on their account, it is credited to the customer and your subscription runs and continues as it is. The nice thing this way, again, is that as a developer, you don't care how the payment method or which payment method is used. You just see the subscription is active or inactive. That's a very easy way to switch your customers to bank transfers if you want in Paddle. That's all for today. Thanks.